wireless stable game console, 8-bit whatever, and of course the GB300. Cheap, really cheap stuff from China. Are they really worth buying? Let's chit chat about it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. I just wanted to do a chit chat with you all guys. Is this really worth picking up nowadays? Because there are a lot of different ways to play. And they are like not really the best one when it comes to this particular handheld and this plug and play stick. So where there are actually so different many ways to play, for particularly the game stick, oh boy, there are so many of those things. I've reviewed a couple of them, and where this thing has some very interesting specification because it's the 8-bit king and it does not only play NES game, so they have been upgrading this. But is it really worth it? So let's do a quick chit chat about it. I do wonder where the music is from. Let me know in the comments, do you have an idea? They keep using this in all kinds of handhelds. Besides that, I must say the first impression of the overall menu, it looks kinda nice. Also the controller, the D-pad feels very comfortable. So this is an 8-bit game stick. So this means we don't have any Game Boy Advance, Super NES or Mega Drive. So having here the Famicom, PC Engine, the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, not the Advance. So in here we're having the ROMs where you actually can add new games to this, of course 8-bit related. Favorite list you can be made here and the history. But let's start off with some NES gaming. And so far I can just see in here, I do have the idea that the audio is actually slowing down. Next up, let's take a close look at the PC Engine, and so far I can actually hear and see this. This system just seems to be working just fine. When going into this menu, you can just actually see what kind of games have been played. Pressing select, it will bring you back to the menu. And we do have a search, so that's kind of cool. So, let's say we're going to be searching for Kung Fu. What I do love about this, it's very fast paced. Pressing enter, and here we're finding every single game that has been something to do with Kung Fu, or at least I'm using Kung. There's anything I implemented. But the thing is, it works quite nice and quite fast. So when you're actually going to be playing a game, pressing select and start, here we're having the special menu. With the special menu we can make a quick load and quick save. We have quite a lot of data that you can store, in total 5 different ones for every single game. So what you can do actually here is just making your save file, pressing start and pressing select, going the way back. Also we can just load it up. So let's say we're going to be starting the game. We want to go back, go to the loading. Press start again, and that's it. And then of course the GB300 6000 plus. So we have reviewed all kinds of, let's say, sub weird things going on, but this particular version comes with 7 simulators. Yeah, it's not a lot, but this thing was also very cheap. So when booting this thing up, you can already see that the display is very horrible and it's going to be very difficult also to record. But the menu is quite interesting. The funky tune, we have seen it before, but let's say cheap dongles. So the overall controls of the menu is kind of interesting. So when pressing left and right, we can switch between the list up and down for a different game. And pressing the shoulder buttons will give you the different kind of platforms. And like the box said, we indeed have the platforms that we were saying. If you're going to be any further than that, here you can actually see we're having favorites and all kinds of cool things. So we're having the ROM folder, actually when you're going to be adding your own games, you can put them in there. We're having the favorite list, the history. We can search, and the search itself works quite nice. I'll give you a demonstration. So let's say we're going to be searching for Sonic. Another thing I've noticed that this thing is quite fast when actually putting in the names. Sometimes we have this annoying delay with these cheaper devices. Pressing enter. And here we have all of the Sonic based games. Of course, it's just searching for Sonic, not the Sonic games in general. But there is no indication what kind of platform it is. It does have, most of them have a screenshot, so you actually can see what you're actually going to have when it comes to booting up the system. But let's take a close look at the PC Engine. I'm already surprised that it's on here on a cheap device like this. But when it comes to, let's say, the button configuration, it seems to be working just fine. Okay, next up let's play some Super NES, and the reason I'm really curious about this game, besides I can dream the overall soundtracks of these things, it's also how will the D-pad perform, because this is one of those, let's say, game systems where we have an indeed adjusting D-pad that works perfectly. Next up, some Mega Drive / Genesis. So one of the games they always messed up in the beginning was the Sonic the Hedgehog 3, where a lot of Sonic games were running great. Sonic 3 and Sonic 3 Knuckles were absolutely horrible, but so far so good. Another thing I just wanted to check out, how was the overall experience with the audio, because one of the things they always need to mess up is when it comes to the stereo sound. We're only having one speaker at the moment, and when you're hitting the rings, you can just actually hear that it doesn't sound like it's supposed to be. Okay, so next up let's get into the Game Boy Advance. But this is the part where they managed to mess it up a lot. So let's hear the music. You do see some screen tearing. Oh, I can hear some starters going on. So when it comes to the overall emulation of Game Boy Advance, it's not great. So we do find something that they completely mess up. You can just hear that the audio is looping. Yeah. And when it comes to the, I think when it comes to the display size, it will be slightly different than the original Game Boy, so it's also going to be squeezed a little bit. But this is just unplayable. You know, and that is always such an annoying thing with these Chinese products, where you're just getting into this positive mindset, or just this positive review, and a final system, they completely manage to mess this up. It does actually work, but we need to wait for quite a long time for basically switching. And if you want to go back, you just pull it out. And that's actually how it works. If you want to have a 4:3 aspect ratio, you need to do it on your television. The signal output itself, it's quite okay. Both of the products have been significantly upgraded in many different ways. Better menus, different emulators, and way more, let's say, just more options for almost the same amount of money that you're actually paying for one of those devices a couple of years ago. Yeah, will this still continue, and is this just one great deal? But then of course is the main question, is like, is it really worth buying? Because maybe there are fun shoe fillers or some like a tiny birthday present. Yeah, when you're paying maybe like $5 or maybe $15 more, you're getting something that can do even more and is overall way better quality. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of these cheap devices? Do you still consider picking them up? Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, hit the little bell, and it would be great to see you in the next video.